I have always believed that the deepest truths often hide in the most unexpected corners of our existence. Some people search for answers in books, in doctrines, in the long halls of philosophy, or in the outer reaches of science. But my own journey into the human psyche began in a place far more intimate and far more mysterious: my dreams. It was within those nightly visions, those strange, symbolic, sometimes terrifying experiences, that I discovered a vast inner landscape waiting to be explored. And through them, I began to understand what I now call the unconscious mind. Today, I want to tell you how dreams became my guide, my compass, and my map into the hidden depths of the human soul. My story truly began at a moment when I found myself torn between worlds. I had been deeply influenced by the work of Sigmund Freud, whom I respected greatly. His understanding of dreams as expressions of repressed desires opened a new door for psychology. But as I continued my own research, as I observed thousands of patients and studied countless dreams, including my own, I realized that the unconscious was far larger, far more profound, and far more autonomous than Freud imagined. I could not shake the feeling that humans were carrying something ancient inside themselves, something older than personal experience. It was as if the unconscious had its own language, its own intentions, its own living energy. And dreams were the place where that hidden world revealed itself most clearly. For many years, I kept meticulous notes of my dreams. They felt like messages from a deeper dimension of my being. Some dreams were simple, filled with familiar places and faces. Others were mythic and overwhelming, populated with symbols and figures I could not possibly explain logically. There were nights when I woke shaking, not from fear, but from the unmistakable sense that I had just witnessed something real, something that did not come from my personal memories or daily experiences. I began to notice patterns between dreams and emotional life, between dreams and personal transformation, and eventually, between dreams and universal human themes. It became undeniable to me that dreams were not random. They were not merely expressions of wish fulfillment or the echoes of daily events. Dreams were an intelligent process. They were speaking, guiding, warning, shaping, and even correcting the conscious mind. One dream in particular changed the course of my life. I dreamt that I was standing before a great stone house, a structure more ancient than anything I had ever seen. As I entered the house, I moved through different levels. The top floor was decorated in a way that felt familiar and modern, almost like the present day. But as I went down one flight of stairs, I found myself in a room filled with objects from the Middle Ages. Thick wooden beams, worn furniture, heavy metal tools. Everything was darker, more primitive. I went further down, descending a second staircase into a Roman-style cellar with curved walls and stone floors. The air was old, unmoving, almost sacred. But the dream did not end there. I found a trapdoor, opened it, and climbed down into a prehistoric cave. The walls were covered in carvings of animals and symbols I had never seen before. And below the cave, carved into the earth itself, were skulls and bones, the remains of ancient ancestors. When I woke from the dream, I knew instantly what it meant. The house was me. The stairs were levels of the psyche, and the deeper I went, the further back in time I traveled, not personally, but historically. That dream revealed that beneath our personal unconscious lies something far older and shared among all humans, the collective unconscious. It was not an idea I had heard from anyone else. It came from within, from a dream that showed me the psyche was not just a personal structure, but a collective inheritance built layer upon layer across millennia. From that point forward, I began to examine dreams not as random stories or disguised wishes, but as symbolic messages from this inner world. I often compared dreams to letters written in a foreign language. The unconscious speaks in images, not in words. It expresses itself through symbols, archetypes, I would later call them. These archetypes are universal patterns. The mother, the father, the hero, the shadow, the trickster, the wise old man, the maiden, the self. These symbols appeared not only in dreams, but in myths, religions, fairy tales, art, and the imaginations of cultures separated by oceans and centuries. How could people who had never met, never shared a culture, imagine the same figures? The answer was clear to me, because these figures are built into the human mind itself. As I studied my patients' dreams, I noticed that dreams often knew things the conscious mind did not. They revealed truths people were unwilling to accept, desires they were afraid to feel, potentials they had not yet recognized. Many times, a patient would come to me with confusion or despair, and their dreams would reveal precisely what they needed to face. A man running from a dark figure in his sleep was avoiding a part of himself in waking life. A woman dreaming of a rising flood was overwhelmed by emotions she had repressed. A child dreaming of being lost in a forest was struggling with fear, uncertainty, or a transition. Every dream had meaning. Every dream had intention. And the unconscious was always attempting to bring balance, to guide, to heal, to integrate. But the unconscious is not always comforting. It can be brutal, demanding, uncompromising. And that is because the unconscious is nature itself. It does not lie. It does not flatter. It does not obey our ego or our desires. It simply reveals what is real. And dreams became the safest place for this truth to appear. After my split with Freud, when I found myself isolated, attacked, and uncertain about my future, my dreams became even more intense. This was the period when I wrote what would later be called the Red Book. During those years, visions came to me not just at night, but sometimes even during the day. I would sit quietly and allow my mind to descend into what I called active imagination. It was a conscious way of entering the same world dreams arise from. Through this process, I met symbolic figures within myself, living embodiments of archetypes. They spoke, argued, taught, and confronted me. Some people mistakenly believe these experiences were hallucinations. But this is not true. I was fully aware, fully conscious. I allowed the unconscious to speak in its own language while I listened, observed, and responded. This exploration was not easy. There were moments when I feared I was losing my mind. I questioned whether I had made a terrible mistake by following this path. But each time the doubt grew too strong, a dream would appear, a dream that reassured me, guided me, or revealed the next step. My dreams became my teachers when no one else understood what I was doing. They became the map when I had no map, and they became the evidence that the unconscious was real, alive, and necessary for a full human life. One night, I dreamt of a giant sea of blood spreading across Europe. I saw countless millions dying, cities burning, darkness spreading across nations. This dream came years before the First World War. At the time, I had no reason to expect such a catastrophe, yet I could feel the weight of the dream, the seriousness of it. My unconscious was telling me something was approaching, something not just personal, but collective. When the war finally erupted, I understood with a chilling certainty that dreams reflect not only individual psychology, but the psychology of humanity as a whole. Dreams can reveal the future, but not in the way fortune tellers or superstitions claim. They reveal it symbolically, psychologically. A dream does not say, "This will happen tomorrow." Instead, it says, "This is the direction of the unconscious. This is what your mind is preparing for. This is the truth you are refusing to confront." And when enough individuals unconsciously move in the same direction, toward fear, aggression, resentment, or chaos, it manifests collectively. Dreams are the early warnings of the human spirit. Over time, I developed a method for interpreting dreams, Although I always warn my students and patients not to rely on fixed symbols, a dream does not have a dictionary. Every dream must be understood within the context of the dreamer's life. A snake may represent wisdom for one person and fear for another. Water may symbolize emotion, birth, the unknown, or transformation depending on the dreamer. And yet, beneath the personal symbolism, there are shared structures, archetypes that belong to all of us. This is why dreams feel both personal and universal. They are rooted in personal experience, but shaped by ancient patterns. I came to believe that the purpose of dreams is psychological growth. Dreams show us what we lack. They balance the one-sidedness of the conscious mind. If a person is too rational, their dreams become emotional, symbolic, irrational. If a person is too emotional, their dreams become structured, logical, or filled with wise figures. The unconscious seeks wholeness. It wants to unify the opposites within us: masculine and feminine, shadow and light, child and adult, instinct and reason. This lifelong process is what I call individuation, the journey of becoming the person you are meant to be, not by rejecting the unconscious, but by integrating it. My own dreams guided me through this process. They revealed my shadow, those parts of myself I did not want to admit existed. They revealed my anima, the feminine side of my psyche, which taught me creativity, intuition, and emotional depth. They revealed the self, the archetype of totality, the center of the psyche that seeks unity. And as I listened to these dreams, as I engaged with the inner figures, I felt myself transformed, deepened, expanded. I was no longer just an ego living a surface existence. I had entered into a dialogue with the inner world. People often ask me whether dreams should be taken literally. The answer is no. Dreams speak in symbols, and symbols must be lived, not decoded like a puzzle. A dream is not a command. It is a message. It is an expression of the unconscious trying to communicate with the conscious mind. Sometimes a dream warns. Sometimes it compensates. Sometimes it reveals. Sometimes it heals. And sometimes it challenges us to face a truth we would rather avoid. I once had a patient who repeatedly dreamt of a small child trapped in a dark room. She thought the dream was meaningless or simply a reflection of stress. But as we explored deeper, she realized the child symbolized a part of herself she had abandoned, her youthful creativity, spontaneity, and innocence. When she began reconnecting with that inner child in waking life, the dreams changed. The room became brighter. The child began to speak. And eventually, the child walked freely into the light. Her entire personality transformed. She became healthier, more fulfilled, more authentic. This is the power of dreams. They reveal the parts of us that cry out for attention. Throughout my career, I never encouraged people to rely solely on external authorities, whether religious leaders, scientists, psychologists, or even myself. I urged them instead to listen to their inner voice, the voice that speaks in dreams. No one knows your path better than your own unconscious. It contains all the history, all the instincts, all the wisdom of your ancestors. It contains the truths your conscious mind cannot grasp. And dreams are the bridge. When you dream, you are not just sleeping. You are entering a realm where the soul speaks. I also believed that modern life had severed people from their inner world. We became too rational, too focused on materialism, too disconnected from myth, symbol, and spirit. Dreams remind us that we are more than logic and reason. We are symbolic beings. We are mythic creatures. We are storytellers living in a universe of meaning. Dreams restore that connection. They reawaken the ancient voice within us. The same voice that guided early humans, that inspired prophets, that gave birth to myths and religions. This voice is still alive, still active, still speaking every night. But listening to dreams requires humility. The ego does not like to be challenged. It does not like being told it is wrong, unbalanced, or incomplete. Yet the unconscious cares nothing for ego. Its purpose is to make us whole. And wholeness requires facing the things we fear. The shadow appears in dreams not to terrify us, but to show us what we have rejected. The anima or animus appears not to confuse us, but to teach us balance. The wise old man or wise woman appears to guide us when we are lost, and the self appears when we are ready to become more than we thought possible. I remember once dreaming of a towering figure made of light and darkness intertwined. It stood before me, radiating both beauty and terror. I felt overwhelmed, almost consumed by its presence. But I also felt a profound sense of meaning, as if I were beholding a truth beyond the limitations of human language. That figure, I later realized, was the self, the totality of who I was and who I could become. It was not an external being, but a symbol of inner unity. Dreams reveal such truths when we are ready for them. So how did I use dreams to map the unconscious mind? Not by analyzing them like puzzles, not by forcing them into preconceived theories, and not by reducing them to simple explanations. I listened, I observed, I recorded, I entered into dialogue with them. I treated dreams as living realities, expressions of a deeper intelligence within the psyche. And over time, a vast structure revealed itself. Layers of consciousness, archetypes, symbols, patterns, psychological forces. The unconscious became a territory I could explore, not through instruments or experiments, but through imagery, imagination, intuition, and reflection. Dreams were the guidebooks, the signposts, the stories, the maps. And what I discovered is that the unconscious mind is not a chaotic wasteland or a storehouse of repressed memories. It is a creative, autonomous, purposeful reality. It produces dreams the way a tree produces leaves, naturally, instinctively, continuously. It seeks balance. It seeks expression. It seeks relationship with the conscious mind. And when the two work together, when you listen to your dreams and integrate their messages, you become whole. You become authentic. You become psychologically alive. I do not claim that dreams give easy answers. They do not. They require effort, reflection, patience, and honesty. But they offer something far more valuable. They offer direction. They offer insight. They offer connection to the deepest parts of yourself. And in a world full of noise, distraction, and fragmentation, dreams remain one of the last sacred spaces where the soul can speak without interruption. If you want to understand yourself, do not look only outward. Do not rely solely on logic or analysis. Look inward. Listen to your dreams. Record them. Study them. Reflect on them. Ask what they want from you. Ask what they are trying to reveal. You may be surprised by the clarity they bring. You may be challenged. You may be transformed. But you will never be the same. For in the end, dreams are not illusions. They are not lies. They are the hidden messages of the inner world, the whispers of the unconscious, the ancient voice of humanity speaking through you. And when you learn to listen, truly listen, you begin the greatest journey a person can undertake, the journey toward the self. And that is how I used my dreams to map the unconscious mind, not as a scientist seeking data, not as a philosopher seeking theories, but as a traveler exploring an inner world that is as vast, mysterious, and awe-inspiring as the universe itself.